welcome back, guys. It's been a couple of months since I last posted, and for that I do apologize. Today is Tuesday night, in October. I think it's the 7th. Anyways, I drive to work, and I don't know, I feel like driving to work is kind of a good time for me to just kind of like record and kind of just get what I think out. It's a good process for me to do while I'm driving. What you guys are gonna do? And I just kind of want to make a video, kind of just like recapping like the last few months, like what's kind of going on in the hobby. So I think I left off kind of like close to Destined Rivals, right? So Destined Rivals is at 10.5 for Scarlet and Violet. No, 10. Followed by Black Bolt White Flare for 10.5. And that is the end of Scarlet and Violet. So we are in a new generation, not quite Gen 10. So like, I would call it 9.5. This is similar to like back in the day when they did Gen 4 and then they did Heart Gold Soul Silver. It was not quite Gen 5 black and white, but it wasn't Gen 4 Diamond and Pearl. And for reference, those sets they're doing good. I actually do think that the Heart Gold Soul Silver sets are actually a little bit cheaper than Diamond and Pearl, so I do think maybe they don't perform as well. But they're still relatively expensive. Obviously they're like hundreds of dollars a pack, so like obviously they're still performing super well according to like regular standards of investing, right? If you bought them when they came out for $4. With this new generation comes a different style, right? It seems like they've been putting more work into their full arts, and it seems like the overall quality of like the individual card is more observant. Like when I look at these cards, like you see, right? These cards have a lot more artwork into them. They're a lot more textured, and the hit rates for the SIRs seems to be about the same, and the IRs are actually a little bit of an easier pull rate, which will affect the pricing of them, making them a little bit cheaper than some Scarlet and Violet top-end IRs. However, I think something that like is kind of unprecedented in the hobby right now is these gold cards, right? So MEO1, so Mega Evolutions, the first set, has 2 gold cards, right? The Gardevoir and the Lucario. And these cards, although they're similar to other gold cards with the texture and stuff like that, in Scarlet and Violet, they're not the same because A, they're their own artworks. In Scarlet and Violet and even Sword and Shield, when they made gold cards, it was the full artwork, but just gold. So it wasn't special in the artwork. It was literally just a copy and paste, but with the gold instead of the full art. And in turn, the gold cards didn't really do too well in Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet, right? Like, I mean, I think the only gold cards that ever really have done well is like the ones in Crown Zenith. But Crown Zenith cards are like, they're special. They're like one of a kind. And even then, I mean, those cards are only like $200 for the top end gold cards. But coming into Mega 1, right? First off, box is already expensive, right? It's $300 on the low end, right? The cheapest I think you could have bought it was about $300 for a booster box. So, right, automatically these boxes are expensive. The distribution cut them into 2 waves. So like, there's not even a lot of product out there right now for this set. Combined with hard pull rates for these gold cards, I mean, I've seen pull rates anywhere from like 1 out of 800 to 1 out of like 1200. I think TCG posted 1200. If that's the case, to pull any singular gold card, it's 1 in 2,400 packs. And especially with these packs being expensive at like $8 or $9 a piece, like we're talking about multiple thousands of dollars needing to be spent on these packs just to pull this gold card. They came out around $500, and they're actually on the upswing. They're both around $700. I think the Lucario is barely beating out the Gardevoir. And so, what's weird is like, part of me doesn't want to believe that that's like they're gonna be their like set price, just because like obviously $700 for a gold card is like, in my opinion, ridiculous. But right, with these pull rates being so slim and the set already being this expensive, like I don't think we're quite comprehending the like long-term investability of these cards. And I'm not saying that if you buy it right now at $700, you're gonna make out like a bandit. I think $700 is rather expensive, and I do think that like once this second wave comes out, they'll fall a little bit in price. I don't know how much they'll fall, or if at all, but I would say like if these cards ever get to $400, I personally think that's kind of like a bottom for these gold cards. At least in the modern time, like right now, right? In the future, maybe the sentiment for gold cards changes, and for the worse, and no one likes them anymore. Or maybe that they copy and paste the gold cards over and over again, making them no longer like special, and that can really bring down the price of these gold cards. However, like the current hype of these gold cards is actually pretty insane. And I've seen a couple of people, that go to shows, and like these gold cards are not out there. Like they're not plentiful. You're not seeing people with stacks of them. You're seeing onesies and twosies. Like you're seeing one or two. Like they're not everywhere. So they kind of have their uniqueness to them, right? Because they're not easy to find, they're not easy to pull, and they're expensive. Definitely I could have to wait a little bit longer to see the grading percentage. Because if these grade low, right, like less than 30% gem rate, then you're gonna have a problem where these cards are going to be worth like $3,000 or $4,000 out of 10. And that's super, super expensive. Like I don't think in the hobby we've ever like until like in the last 2 years seen cards come out and just be worth thousands of dollars. Like that's pretty insane. Like I remember when I used to open, like, back in the day, like, the top card was $50. And now, I can see a couple cards being, a couple hundred, right? Like, the top end, right? But for a PSA 10 to be $3,000-$4,000, like, that's wild. Like, and it's crazy because, like, that is the new thing. It's not just a singular card being hyped. There are multiple cards at over 1,000. And like, don't get me wrong, I love these cards. I think that they're really, really like pretty and like well orchestrated in the way that they're designed. And they're really like they're premium cards. Like I really do view them as like good quality. Like someone took their time making these. I don't know. I guess I'm set in the old ways of pricing cards. I don't quite understand these new cards. But just because I don't understand these new cards doesn't mean like they're not investable. And especially these boxes, right? Obviously, I do mostly sealed investing because I believe mostly in sealed. I think that sealed is like ultimately the one that comes out on top in the long term. Because, right, I would rather invest in something where the population of my investment depreciates in numbers, right? Every time somebody opens a box, there's less boxes in the market. And I feel like collecting single cards is like, yeah, you collect a PSA 10 or something. But, every week that goes by, and more people grade and more people get 10s, and it like dilutes the number of 10s out there. lot more volatile. Like, I don't want to buy a card for $1,000 and it goes down to $300 in a year. So that does happen. I've seen that. I mean, obviously, probably not with these new gold cards, but there's definitely times in down markets where like slabs don't do very well. But I think these new hyper expensive gold cards and SIRs and all this stuff really is gonna like give people a reason to rip open boxes, right? Like, obviously, when a box is $200, it's a tough open, right? You don't want to open a $200 box because if you don't pull anything, that's $300 down the drain, right? And like, obviously, no one wants to lose $200. And I think the $300 price point is really like taking people out of like the hobby. Like, there's a lot of people that like really just cannot afford it anymore. And like, to a certain point, like I do feel bad, right? I do see a lot of like, you know, people, especially parents, complain that like, you know, their kids can't like afford Pokemon anymore, and that for a lot of their points is true. Like, a lot of these kids can start that on me over. A lot of these kids can afford these cards, and like, I do feel for them, right? I mean, I want to buy a bunch of this new stuff, and you know, because of the price, like, I can't buy as many as I want. What have I been buying recently? The answer is kind of just things at MSRP when I get them. A lot of GameStop drops. Sometimes I just now got Walmart Plus. They have drops on Wednesdays, and sometimes, like, for instance, like this last Monday they had a drop, and I was actually able to pick up some white flare TVs. But like, just the market right now is so bullish. Like, everything is just so pricey, and they're holding price. I mean, they're, you know, like, you have 2 or 3 days and you see drawbacks of like 5 or 10%, and then you see runs of 40%. And it's just like, there is almost this false reality that like, you can't lose money. And that really is scary, I think, especially with a lot of investors, right? A lot of these people, you know, they're moving into the hobby and they're just like spending thousands of dollars on this stuff, thinking like, oh, like, you can't lose money. And I mean, I think in the long term, you really can't, right? Especially if you're investing in sealed. Like, if you buy something, even at top of market, and you wait, you know, 3 to 5 years, like, even if you buy it at top of market, I believe, like, that you're still gonna make money, because that's kind of what Pokemon does. It just moves up gradually. But I think a lot of people are kind of missing a lot of easy plays, right? I think a lot of people are too focused on these new sets of Destined Rivals and Mega and all this stuff. Like, right, these boxes are $300 and $400. Like, don't get me wrong, is Destined Rivals like a good set? 100%. Like, it's a good name, it has a good theme, it has good cards. But $400 for a booster box, when it came out like 4 months ago, like, I personally don't want to invest in this stuff. I'm at that price point. It's because when you have Destined Rivals at $400, you have a lot of downturn potential, right? Let's say we go into a downswing of demand, right? We have the demand, right? Demand falls, and they prep more of this box, right? I'm not saying it's going to drop down to $100, but let's say it drops down to $250 and sits there for 3 years. Like, that is a possibility. Do I really think that? No, because of the way that Pokemon has been performing recently. I just don't. It's not likely, but it's always a potential, right? And I don't want to invest in something with a potential of having in the next 2 years. Obviously, right? I'm an investor for long term, so I don't really mind the having in 2 years, especially on certain products where I could just buy in cheaper, and dollar cost average down. But I think there are more obvious plays right now than Distant Rivals and Mega Set. I do think Mega's good. I would get a little bit of Mega if you don't have it. I do believe in having a little bit of everything in the wild event that it turns into an Evolving Skies or a team up, right? Like, you never know the outlier, right? The one set that, everyone says too expensive and they don't reprint it and it just shoots off and goes to the moon. Like, there's a potential, right, that Destined Rivals or Mega Evolutions could do that. I'm not saying that they can't. And I do have I have 50 to 100 packs of Mega Evolutions. I do have 3 booster boxes and a couple ETBs of Destined Rivals, right? I got them at $205 a booster box. So, I got them at a relatively, decent price point. So, I feel a lot more comfortable buying Destined Rivals at $205 than $400. But it's just one of those things where, I would say if you're deploying capital right now and you're trying to buy Pokemon for investment, I think right now there are obvious plays. One is 151. 151, I know it's expensive, right? It's $16 to $17 a pack. Just a loose pack. So obviously the seal's gonna have a sealed premium on them. ETBs are at $400 and PCs are $950. I just still believe that long term, those boxes are just gonna go crazy. I do see it has a similar feel to Generations, right? That thing is Generations is 9 years old now, and each pack's around $200. And that's where I see 151 going. I mean, even if you were to calculate it right as being, let's say it performs half of it good, right? So let's say it's already, 151's about 2 years old. I think 2 years old, literally, it just not hit 2 years old. So, another 7 years, right? Even if it does half as good performance-wise, we are at $17. So, you're telling me in 7 years, expected potential is a 5x? That's still crazy good. I mean, obviously, some of the performing Pokemon sets, that's not the top end, but still, I just feel so confident in 151 long-term, especially the sealed, the booster bundles, ETBs, all that stuff is gonna go crazy. Secondary play, I think right now is pretty good, is Journey Together. Journey Together is not that the set's the best. I don't see the set being the best in SV era, the block. But we're failing to see that promo in the promo in the booster box is now $45. That thing is already almost $50. And I'm not saying that it'll hold or that it's gonna be $100 or anything like that. But as of right now, that card is already pulling its weight, right? And there is demand for that card, right? It's a Reshiram, stamped, and I truly don't see these stamps being reprinted. I don't see them reprinting these booster boxes with the promos. So now you have a box with a really nice promo. Same thing with Mega Evolutions, but the boxes are $260. In my opinion, they're on a sale, right? They're on this if you take out the promo, if you sell the promo, these boxes are $220, $215, right? $250. That's cheaper than the Scarlet Violet base. And I'm not saying that the Scarlet Violet base is bad by any means, but when it's basically the cheapest box you're gonna find right now, literally on the market, and on top of that, it has a promo that's worth $40. I feel like there's a lot of value there, especially in the cases. The cases there's almost no premium on them. If anything, there's a discount. I think they're 16 something the case. Which is pretty good. Here, let me pause real quick.